Greetings, Force users and heroes of all ages, and welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. As always, I'm Dino Nicandros, and I'm joined by Alyssa Simmons.
Hello, everyone.
And Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And today we are talking episode 14 of The Bad Batch. This is War Mantle, directed by Stuart Lee, written by Damani Johnson, and by God, we're Star Wars fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntaun, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
All right, it's spicy now.
That was an accident.
Oh, we gave them so much crap last week and this week.
And we're going to pretend like we never said a thing. No, that's not true.
No, we said nice stuff too. We still said nice stuff.
And everything we said still stands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they apparently listened. They listened to our podcast, and they quickly redid the next episode.
Yep,
and here we
that
are.
is certainly how animated television works, Daniel. I'm glad you.
Indeed, they figure it out in real
understand.
time, and yes.
And it's amazing how fast they can go.
This is, I don't know, confirms what we were saying last week, that I think they could have shortened this season and gotten to episode 14 quicker.
Yeah,
but,
right.
For sure.
But I'm glad we're here. Glad we're here.
It was so exciting, and not to mention just the overall look of it too was really cool. Like some of those fight sequences, I like the, I don't know. Sometimes animation can look kind of flat. Like this was so like I know this is probably not the right word to say, but like the depth perception of it just felt very much. It felt so real. It was cool.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was good and loud.
It was, and they've improved every week. You can tell that, assuming they animate from start to finish, which I'm not sure that's how they do it, but assuming
they animated it. They animated it directly after our episode aired.
Yes.
But assuming they do go in episode order, they've clearly mastered the new tricks really, really well, and it continues to just blow my mind how lifelike the expressions are, and their ability to convey even the subtlest emotions, and it's really fun to watch. And I'd been probably watching half of this season on my laptop, and I finally got back to the big screen, and oh my god, it's a joy to watch.
It's so pretty.
We can start with a little recap, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about here.
Recap it.
We start, speaking of the discussion we had last week about Nazis.
Uh-huh.
I got really creeped out by our opening sequence of an unnamed clone at this point running through the forest being chased down by
dogs.
Mastiffs. They're called Mastiffs.
Yeah.
And you'll be familiar that these animals are very dog-like, and they tend to run with the Tusken Raiders. You've seen them primarily in the prequels, but creepy animal. We saw them in Mando, too.
Mando season 2, we saw them.
Season 2, the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the scene was very much based off of some film or something.
It's an amalgamation of escapes and being chased by German shepherds.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what this was, and very jarring. And we're on a planet called Dara, which we've never been introduced to before, so they continue to add new planets to the galaxy, which is always fun. We cut back to the Marauder, and we get a transmission from Rex asking our favorite clones to divert their attention to the rescue of this still unnamed clone, and Rex
We
is
all
given
knew he
this
was
guy.
coming back.
Yes,
We
and
did.
Rex has given this guy priorities, so there's obviously importance here. And you see an interesting division among the crew yet again, and you get a good sense of where their priorities lie. And you have Hunter, who's like, we don't have enough intel. Like, I'm not going in with enough information. This isn't smart.
We don't have enough Mantel
Tech,
mix.
right?
We're
You have
totally
Tech.
out of the Mantel mix. Yeah.
You have Tech, who reminds them that Sid has hired them for another job, and if they don't get paid, they don't eat. Which, if you think about it, like, it hasn't been put in those terms yet, but
Yeah.
their very survival depends on jobs from Sid at this point. So
The Mantel
Tech
mix.
makes a very good point. Mantel mix. And Omega, being the ever empathetic one, says a soldier has been left behind. We need to go bail him out. And obviously
And she obviously eats the most.
correct. Yeah, well, you're right. She
Frickin'
does.
piggy.
So it means even more coming from her, considering how much she stuffs her face with the Mantel mix. So they are given the coordinates of the distress signal that this clone dropped as he was being chased in the forest, and they arrive on Darrow, and they quickly discover that something is amiss here. There's a giant military installation, codenamed Warmantle. This is Warmantle, which we've previously discussed, that we first get this name drop in Rogue One, and we're still not quite sure what Warmantle is, but I think it's now coming into focus that this is the clone replacement contingency. Now, this is happening simultaneously with events on Kamino, and we've spent much of our discussion episodes kind of talking about what was eventually going to happen to the Kaminoans, what would happen to the operation, and they are beginning to wise up to the idea that the Empire is going to replace them.
Yep.
And the Prime Minister,
Is pooping his
he
pants.
wants out. He's like, we got to protect our investments. We got to protect our technology. I'm going to arrange for us to get the hell out of here. So things got real on their end. The Empire is now actively removing them.
Man, I just wish that, like, in times of, like, great stress and fear, that I can act more like the Kaminoans, because they're just so chill.
They
It's like,
are,
Yeah.
yes.
We are facing ultimate destruction.
Yeah, Nala Se
Should
is just
probably
like,
go hide. Yeah, that sounds nice.
execution is imminent.
I really.
Lama Su's like, get the car ready. We're going out the back door.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, things aren't looking great for Kamino. So the back on Darrow, the Bad Batch sneaks into this base using Hunter's Aragorn-like tracker skills.
Yes, totally.
I see more Lord of the Rings in this. This is not an accident. I don't think I'm being paranoid. Like there, especially these last two episodes, there's been some like heavy Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And Rambo too.
Oh,
Yes.
totally.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Huge Rambo. He even kind of,
Hunter
I didn't
is
even think
Rambo.
about it until just now, but Hunter kind of like looks like Rambo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
the red
Yeah, yeah.
headscarf bandana thing. Oh, absolutely, I didn't think about that. Rambo all the way. Oh, speaking of which, this is complete side note, but I was actually reading this like an hour before we got on here, and there's a story that Quentin Tarantino has talked about making a Rambo movie.
Oh my
And he wants
God.
Adam Driver to play Rambo.
Who?
Adam Driver?
Adam Driver.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That would be the bloodiest movie
It
ever
would just
made.
be pure blood.
Jesus.
There's not enough blood in the universe for what will be required for that if
Wow.
it
Oh,
happens.
boy.
But there's a minor Star Wars connection there.
And John Oliver will be so happy.
Yes.
He's like obsessed with Adam Driver, in case you didn't know.
So it's at this point Hunter discovers that CC-576, this is the unnamed clone at this point, using his tracker skills, discovers he's probably been captured. He noticed he was dragged, looked like a body had been dragged, so into the base they must go. And Hunter, finally, being a responsible parent, sends Omega back to the ship.
There
with
you
Wrecker.
go.
Send the kids back to the ship.
Omega and Wrecker.
Omega and
Yeah,
Wrecker.
Literally.
And they noticed a shuttle has landed, and they're putting two and two together that this shuttle is probably carrying the prisoner they're after. It's at this time we make another realization that the troopers are wearing, the stormtroopers are wearing uniforms that are an armor that is not familiar to our clones, and
but slightly familiar to us.
slightly familiar. They look like proto stormtroopers, and the clones that are leading each division of stormtroopers, they look a lot like if you played the Xbox game Clone Commandos.
Oh, sure.
That's the armor of Clone Commandos, so it's kind of cool to see.
From what I understand,
brought to life.
it's very strongly based off of the original design.
Yeah, the concept art of stormtroopers.
Yes.
Yeah, these were
pretty dope.
Ralph McQuarrie inspired, definitely. I love that that Dave Filoni in particular has spent a lot of time recreating some of the designs that Ralph McQuarrie thought up.
Yeah, we got a lot of that in The Mandalorian too. Very cool.
Oh yeah, tons of it.
And Rebels. I mean, that is the animation style of Rebels. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So we find out more information on this base, and it comes to their attention that the base is staffed with only 50 clone commandos and 1,000 TK troopers.
Ooh.
And if you're familiar with the TK designation, that is the designation of Imperial Stormtroopers.
That's Toby
And
Kendall. That was a place that we used to eat in college.
what kind of food was at
What
work?
was it?
I used to have probably grilled cheese every fucking day.
Oh, okay.
That grilled cheese was sick.
Or TK Burgers. That's an existing chain
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's pretty good,
Fascinating.
actually. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Burgers.
I assume that's definitely what it stood for.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Well, all right.
Okay, then. So CC-576,
Tiny
he
kids.
is in prison, and he is asking his jailers for food, and they are big old dicks to him. And just in time, the Bad Batch shows up. And we finally figure out who this guy is, and it's none other than our old friend Gregor.
Gregor!
Gregor Clegane,
There he is.
the Mountain.
Little Gregor with his squeaky
His little
13-year-old
squeaky
pubescent voice.
Squeaky voice.
Now, the last time we saw him, he got exploded, didn't he?
He did.
Yes, we saw him. Great, thanks, Daniel.
Spoiler
bringing
alert.
that up.
Jeez. He's
Uh,
alive right
but-
now, though, in our story.
Yes,
He is
but the last
alive.
time we saw him was in Rebels, which of course is taking place after this. This bridges the time we see him in Clone Wars and the time we see him in Rebels.
And so in Clone Wars, he's like a dishwasher or something, right?
Yeah, he starts as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know why that's funny. I laughed. Sue me. So they break Gregor out, and as they're trying to escape this base, he's explaining to them what's going on here, and that Gregor was originally assigned to basically train his replacements, that the clones at this base are being used to train the stormtrooper force. And
Ugh, how awkward.
Gregor also makes a point that while the stormtroopers are not nearly as skilled as the clones, he notes there is an endless supply of them, which is a frightening thought that the Empire is. We've
made
always
that
known
much
this,
of an
but
impact.
that the Empire is able to. They have sacrificed the quality of the individual soldier to completely overwhelm the galaxy with just cannon fodder.
And
I
that
mean,
happens
that's
so
what stormtroopers are.
fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
This happened in a matter of weeks,
Yeah, basically.
maybe a couple months. So that's a frightening proposition for the galaxy that they're ramping up this quickly.
That being said, I do love that Dave Filoni just added a dash of, a pretty important clue as to why stormtroopers are not as skilled. Because the clones that were training them kind of just didn't teach them everything.
Left off a lot of information.
Right, yeah. Gregor says it wouldn't be smart to teach them everything, and
which is really smart of him, honestly.
Very wise. He clearly didn't teach them how to shoot, so that was
whoops.
Good thinking.
Oh, you know what? I actually just, speaking of shooting, there was some really neat details, like just little things that just, again, makes everything feel so much real. It makes it feel, I don't know, yeah, just more grounded in reality. But this was like the first time, I think, at least that I remember, that we've seen somebody shooting with the stun gun and it hitting somebody's body part, like hitting a leg, and like so his leg was like dragging behind him, like, because we usually see it like it hits you,
they
you're
hit
down.
him right in the center of their chest or whatever, and they're
yeah. So that was fun to see that, like, if it hits like an appendage, it like more or less just makes it go to sleep, and the rest of you is okay.
Yeah, I like
that's a cool little detail. Yeah, absolutely. So they're trying to escape, and Tech attempts to redirect their pursuers, and he uses an old clone code, and it, of course, does not work anymore. It sets off the alarms.
Idiot.
And they are in major trouble. And during all of this, Gregor takes a shot to the body, and they are just in really bad shape. So they call to the Marauder, where Omega, and we've left Omega and Wrecker, and they're going to try and perform a pickup here, but they're under fire from enemy ships. These are kind of the prototype fighters. And Gregor and Tech are able to get on the ship, and Echo and Hunter, who are following behind, are stuck on this mountain. And it's just not looking real good. And they're left to kind of fight off the troopers themselves. The Marauder takes fire. Omega uses Gonki to such a clever name, Gonki.
Gonki, the trash bin.
Just such a great name.
Gonki, the trash bin robot. Gonki.
Gonki, a Star Wars story.
Oh, I'd watch it.
It's about family.
They made an Ewok movie, didn't they? Why not?
Yeah,
right.
Make an entire droid movie. That I will be there for.
No, just a gonk droid.
I know they've done just Gonki.
They did the animated droid show.
Yeah, I was gonna say they did an animated something, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Me either. What's wrong with us?
Yeah,
I know.
Are we Star Wars fans?
We've got
or
some
are we
homework
not
to do.
Star
What
Wars
the
fans?
heck? I'll write it down.
She's actually writing it down.
She literally.
She actually is. They're able to get Echo onto the ship. They're making a last-ditch effort to basically jump from the top of this mountain onto the ramp, and Hunter misses, and he takes a long tumble. How he's not dead, I'm not sure, but
because he's
Aragorn.
Very strong.
That's right.
On the Marauder, Gonki is out of commission. The systems are failing. Life is horrible. Everything is wrong. And Hunter radios in and says, basically, leave me. Get out of here. We accomplished the mission. Just you can't stay here. And it's just, you have this harrowing moment of Omega. Just, you hear her voice cracking, and she's like, we have to get him.
We have to save my father.
And Tech, being the emotionless, kind of practical one, says we're following Hunter's order, and off they go. And Hunter is now in the custody of the Empire.
A trade. A clone for a clone.
And
Tit for
simultaneously,
tat, if you will.
Yes. And simultaneously with this, Rampart, Admiral Rampart, is on Kamino, and he has discovered what the Kaminoans are trying to do.
Oh boy.
You forgot his middle name. Admiral
Kevin Rampart?
That's it.
Kevin?
Kevin.
Ralph Rampart?
Admiral Ralph!
I was going to say
my
something
name is
along
Admiral
the lines
Ralph
of
Rampart.
like douchebag or dickhead.
Yes.
Oh.
But
Or Hayward, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Admiral
Admiral
Hayward Rampart. That's
Admiral-
actually a great name.
Admiral
Yeah.
Ultron Hayward.
Yeah.
Hayward.
Admiral Mephisto Rampart.
Oh my gosh, I don't think we mentioned Mephisto last episode.
We didn't.
Well, Mephisto.
Mephisto. We make up
Fair.
for it.
That's it. Oh, God. You say
So-
it 3 times, and he's going to pop up right behind
No.
I know.
you. Ooh.
So
That's canon.
Rampart's in on what's going on, and he has Nala Se arrested, citing that he can use
What
her.
does Nala say?
He can
Nala
use
Se,
her
Nala Sa,
scientific.
Mamakusa.
For God's sake! We're right at the end. Let me finish, Daniel.
That was
gonna
my
kill
fault,
you.
too.
That wasn't even me that time.
That was my fault, too.
No, it's Daniel. It's always Daniel, even when it's not.
But do say her full name. Nala Se, Nala Sa, Nanakusa.
Please, for God's sake, don't be rude, Dino.
She almost died.
We're off the rails here. We're off the rails. He has Nala Se arrested, which is an interesting. There's some connective tissue here now. So he's getting rid of the politician. He says we have no use for Lamassu, so he's getting probably killed. Sorry,
Seems that way.
We see.
We got a
it seems
closed
like that's-
door, but
Yeah.
Right.
we didn't get any like slicing noises or pew pew noises. But
Right. So I mean, I guess his fate is up for interpretation at this point. Maybe.
yeah, and really, the rules of TV and film, like no body, no death,
Although
and
this
even
could just
sometimes
be
with
the
a body.
right. But I don't know. It's fair to assume that if you're left alone in a room with a couple guys, it's probably
After somebody has
curtains.
said that we have no more use for you.
right. It's probably
Probably
curtains
probably
for
good.
Minister
Pretty
Sue.
safe to assume, yeah.
But the capturing of Nala Se
Mamasak.
starts building the explanation for how the Empire continues to use the cloning technology.
Yep.
Again, I go back to Dr. Pershing, who is a
Mhm.
human but has the Kaminoan emblem on his jacket, and that he's clearly using that technology.
And
I
if
think-
I might say, I mean, like,
You may not say.
All right,
you
I
may not
won't.
say anything ever again.
I won't. I quit. I'm leaving this closet.
Say it.
Just say it.
Make haste, boy.
The Pershing's like attitude towards Grogu is like kind of similar, I feel, to Nala Se. Like, and just how like motherly she is, at least, like that she kind of, at least that motherly is probably the wrong word because, but that she cares.
Yeah.
Maternal. Yeah, it's or there's at the very basic level an appreciation for science and
and
kind of a
life.
delicacy and a just kind of honoring the work. And
Yeah.
and as you said, Dr. Pershing he's not interested in hurting Grogu for the sake of hurting Grogu. He doesn't even intend to do that.
Right, right.
And he kind of does everything in his power to avoid that. And there's just a reverence for science, but their science is being used for pretty nefarious means.
Right.
So right at the end, we have Hunter in Imperial custody, and our boy Crosshair shows up and ends it with a very interesting line. I was hoping for the whole squad, but you'll do.
Yeah.
So, couple
Mysterious.
things here. I imagine Crosshair might be attempting to use the Bad Batch against each other, in that I have Hunter, and I know you will come and try and get him.
Yeah, that's what I picked up. It was like
So
using him as leverage, and yeah. Like,
I think that is most likely.
you want your
and that's
brother
what's-
back, don't you?
Right, come and claim him.
Yeah, right.
But the other alternate possibility is, what if the Empire has use for Hunter in the way they had a use for Crosshair? Could that be what he's inferring?
Wait, the what?
Maybe. Could there be a use the Empire has for Hunter beyond being a little worm to get them to come fishing, as it were? And do they intend to do something with him? Maybe reinsert a chip or...
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, if they have the ability, if they already know how to do mind control and it works, then, Yeah, it's very
So
plausible.
that, I
they
mean,
could
that
do it again.
possibility, yeah, that possibility exists. Neither one is good, and knowing
I
the
hadn't
Bad
even
Batch,
considered like mind control, but yeah,
I think
guess-
it's more likely that they're using him as bait to,
yeah,
and knowing the Bad Batch, they're absolutely going to step in it. They're gonna spring
sure.
the trap.
of course.
But yeah, that was our recap of the episode, and we have 2 left, and
Yeah.
and
I mean, if the last season of Clone Wars was any indication, I mean, those last 2
Couple,
episodes are
yeah.
gonna be pretty fucking cool. I was gonna say too about what might also happen. It's also plausible too that now that Hunter is there and able to like speak like mano a mano with his old brother, that he might start to cast doubt into his mind about like, because especially now, I'm curious whether or not Crosshair even knew about this facility and like what it actually means for the clone troopers, and having that new knowledge, if that might change his mind, and like, because it's hard to deny that they are very clearly being replaced, and that there's probably no room for him in the new empire,
And that has to have dawned on him already. And we talked about his fraying relationship with Rampart. And Rampart has chided him consistently for failing to complete his mission. And I mean, he was around when the discussions are being had about like, yeah, we'll see how useful you guys are. And he has to know. So if there is going to be some sort of redemption, as you say, Daniel, that it will be because he's being replaced, number one, and number two, they're being asked to do really bad things. But
Right.
the thing is, Crosshair already just seems so far gone because we've already seen him murder people, like just murder civilians,
kill people.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got a long way to go in 2 episodes if they decide to resolve that in
Yes.
2 episodes.
That is legit.
Which
Okay, so since we're all feeling like there's most likely going to be a season 2 at this point, do we feel Crosshair makes it into season 2, A, and B, do we think he's going to be good or bad still?
I don't know. They might leave us on a cliff. I mean, that's the thing. That's the big question, isn't it? Are they wrapping it all up in 2 episodes, or are we going to season 2? And if they do,
I feel like
it does
we're going
seem
to
like
season
we're going
2.
to a season 2. I would think we get left with some kind of cliffhanger with him as far as
I'm
where his
preparing
allegiance
myself
is.
for that.
Yeah, I know.
That's good.
I am too.
Always good to prepare yourself for the cliffhanger, and if you do get, resolution, you get it.
You get it.
And I did say last week, and it was an overstatement, but I did say last week I would be supremely disappointed if
You did say that.
much of the big ideas didn't get resolved. But as you said, Daniel, I think I'm slowly coming around to the idea that it's probably going to be stretched out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they've created this IP. It feels like it would be weird if they just like shut it off after 1 season. I feel like they're totally gonna at least squeeze out a couple more seasons.
Maybe next season will be a shorter, a smaller episode count.
Yeah,
And then they
maybe.
I don't know, but I was listening back to our conversation that we had last week, and yeah, I think we were being a little too harsh, if I'm being honest, about season 1 of like any show is usually like
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
It is tricky because there is an amount of exposition that has to go into like everything.
You're introducing so many new characters, new places, new situations.
Thing is, we did like it never came across our tongues that it was bad.
No,
like nothing they
no,
did
it
was
wasn't
bad.
not bad
it was
at all. It's
it was a
just-
question of what was the point.
I think
Yeah.
we did say that actually.
As far as our larger story
We
goes.
did not.
And
No, I think yeah, I still
Um,
stand by that they probably could have taken away like 3 or 4 of the episodes that we've had and we'd be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably it would be fine. Yeah. And I was saying that it's more than likely a means of setting up something for the future, but like, that's not necessarily, that's not an excuse, because like a good writing would make whatever that setup also be really entertaining too.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what? I will go to bat for what you just said, Alyssa, because I think back to Mandalorian, and I think it was episode 5 of season 1 where they introduced Toro Calican and the whole thing about hunting. Oh, sorry, what's her face? The bounty hunter.
Fennec?
Fennec, yeah. So the
Shand.
whole episode of tracking down Fennec Shand, and that episode just felt so out of a lot of the commentary on that episode at the time was it felt so out of place with what was going on, and then with the reemergence of Fennec as a driving force, and that last little bit at the end of the episode of the boot spurs, which we now know was Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like so maybe there's some of that happening, and Daniel, you've made that point that little crumbs being dropped in episodes that otherwise seem insignificant could have big ramifications going forward, and
Yeah,
then
'cause
change the way we go
rewatching-
back. Right, they changes the way we go back and watch those episodes.
Yep.
Knowing later that so.
Because I have seen that episode again on Mandalorian and been like, oh, wee.
Yeah. It hits differently knowing now what we know.
Yep, totally.
There were also a few other great tidbits in this episode, particularly musically.
I was
that
just going to bring up music.
I got super giddy about.
Yeah.
Too. There were
All
so,
sorts of Death Star themes.
Yeah,
from,
so many A New Hope.
Dun, 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 dun,
callbacks.
dun, 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 dun,
And when they're running through War Mantle, when they're running through there, like the first time you hear like the harp, the like it was. I was like, ooh! I rewound it because that little harp trill was so cool.
Very
and-
reminiscent.
Yeah, I love that we're now getting into New Hope era musically. That's
Territory.
good choice by Kevin Kiner. Also on the Death Star theme, the fact that they try to escape through a thermal exhaust port
Yeah.
is excellent. It shows the Empire uses thermal exhaust ports on all of their major construction projects.
Yep.
And they seem to be a problem every time.
You idiots.
Every single place.
My God.
It is quite funny, though.
It is quite funny. So that was cool. So I mentioned the Clone Commandos in this video game. And I didn't notice this at the time, but someone pointed out that one of them is wearing a bright blue visor.
Oh, yes.
And that this commando is actually from the Clone Commando video game, and his codename is Scorch, and that game is no longer canon, but Scorch was later reintroduced in Clone Wars, which I don't remember this.
Yeah, I
I'm trying
read
to
that too.
remember.
I was trying to remember. Hold on,
I need to go
think I
back and
have
watch
a-
that.
That doesn't
I have it
ring
pulled
any
up, like
bells.
which episode it was.
Did we
in.
hear like the name Scorch, or just like his visage?
I believe it's just his visage,
Mm-hmm.
but it's quite clearly Scorch. I
Yeah,
played the
he's
video
in,
game, and I don't remember.
Season 3 of Clone Wars episode Witches of the Mist.
I don't believe it.
That's the one he's
Okay.
in. So
Well, I will go check
just
that out.
If you want to go watch that and look at him, you can.
Oh God, I miss him. so
But David
much.
W. Collins, he's a sound engineer, composer, sound editor. I've mentioned him before on the podcast, and he is doing a lot of the sound work on this show, and he's mentioned on his Twitter account that he also, I believe, was the audio lead on Clone Commandos, and that
Oh,
he was
cool.
taking a lot of the effects he had built, and this was like 15 years ago, taking a lot of those effects and reusing them in this show, which is
really
cool callback.
that is dope.
It was, and if you haven't played this game or not familiar with it, it was very much like Halo. It runs very much like Halo.
Was it a
it's just got Star Wars
multiplayer,
skins.
like
Yeah.
Everybody's against each other kind of thing, or
Well, it has a single. If I remember correctly, it has a single player
campaign?
But yeah, it was very much like Halo, just
Cool.
with a Star Wars skin on it, which was awesome. But
Yeah, this episode felt very fun video gamey when they like jump on top of the shaft and are like scaling the walls and like get
Right.
ready for my jump, like that. It just like felt like
And then the fire.
right, we botched the rendezvous. Now we have to go around.
yeah,
and
yeah,
figure
it
another,
was
yeah.
super
And then
fun.
the ship
though.
fight.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so gorgeous. I when they landed on Darrow, it in some ways felt a little bit like Endor with all the
Sure.
trees and
Yes.
yeah, I just cannot get over how good the animation looks.
Well, yeah, and just a little, like, again, the little attention to details, like when they're walking through the forest, you know, and even from like way, like some of the shot, I call them shots, but they're not shots, but you know what I mean, like from like way above looking down.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them like brushing past like a shrubbery, and you know the shrubbery is moving like with them,
Yeah.
you know, like but it's like the smallest because they're so high up. But I noticed that, and I was like, that makes it feel real. That's dope. Good for them.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, with 2 episodes left,
The thought is that it's gonna probably not wrap up. Well, I mean, we should see like at least. We still don't completely 100% know what the arc of the season is, I guess, then. And we won't know until the very end, I suppose. But
I thought it was going to be Omega. Like, I thought
Me
she
too.
was kind of the MacGuffin here, and maybe she still is, but
a lot
getting
can
to
happen
the...
in 2 episodes. At
Yes,
least, you
well,
know.
and I was about to say, I'm going to be interested to see if we get some kind of unofficial report in the next couple days that the runtime for these is significantly longer. And that will be
I
a
believe
big
it may be
indicator.
the last episode. Yeah, I could believe that.
Oh, one thing that we didn't talk about was that scene with Lamasei Lamasama Makusa and the children, the kid
Oh,
troopers.
yes. Yeah, little baby Bobas.
Right.
Yeah, that was just interesting because, you know, she's
Rubber baby
rubber
Boba.
baby boba bumpers. When they're like, well, we're still gonna be like warriors or something, right?
Right.
He asks something
Yeah.
like that, and yeah, it just was fascinating. Also, something about because like Omega is like so cute, but something about like the boy troopers made me feel spooky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did
'cause
you feel spooky?
little children.
Well, I think
like-
in the same way that like looking at all the clones does that to me because they all look exactly the same, you know, other than the Bad Batch, like they all look exactly the same. So
And they're all bred to be soldiers and nothing more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll
Yes,
be
yes.
it'll be very, and I think maybe just and I'm wondering why they bothered to put that in there. You
Mhm.
know, like if we're gonna see this little troop of kids again, or whether or not it's just supposed to be like, oof, this is heavy because like, you know, when they're gonna get rid of these clone troopers, that means that they have to kill all the kids too. That's
Yeah. I think also whenever I see kids in Star Wars things, I just get afraid that
Sure.
they're about to be killed or
Mhm.
used as slaves or
Child soldiers.
You know, all of the above. But yeah, this
And he
episode
still might.
he very well could. This episode made me really excited for the last 2.
yeah.
So that's
Yes.
that's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was never off board the ship, but
No.
but we very quickly that was a quick turnaround from the
Right, we're back on track.
Yeah,
Yes.
'twas a great episode. I
Dino, do you want to tell us your theory about What If, the Marvel show?
Oh.
What if?
Oh, okay. Well, we're switching
Thanks for
gears.
remembering because I
gang.
totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
Just tacking
actually,
it on here at the end, you know?
Yes, I had forgotten as well. So What If premieres August 11th, I believe. And this
That's
is
like 2
the
seconds
animated
from
Marvel.
Yes.
Yes, thank God. It's next week. It's next week.
That's next week?
Yay! Yeah, it is.
Wow, we're going to have What If and the end of Bad Batch kind of overlapping. So it's going to be
good
fun.
Lord.
It's going to be a fun few weeks here. So before I get right into my theory, they released I believe it's 54 or 55 actor roster of MCU actors who returned to voice themselves in this show. 55.
That's
Wow.
So
amazing.
that's Endgame on steroids.
That
Yeah.
sounds expensive.
There's no Robert Downey Jr., there's no Chris Evans, and there's no Tom Holland. But I think
What the
and
hell,
no Scarjo,
guys?
but everybody else is back.
Well, what were they doing? Why didn't
were
they
retired.
do this?
That's rude.
Except for Tom. I think
Tom
Tom was
Holland
probably
isn't.
filming Spider-Man.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
Tom would be super into it.
And also
So-
spoiling all of the
Uh-huh.
all the plots.
Maybe that's why they didn't put him in it. Because they're like, nope. Sorry.
Right.
They're like,
No,
we
I
don't
mean-
have it in us to deal with another press season. We already have
Well,
to deal
we've-
with it
we've
with
talked-
Spider-Man.
And we've talked about, to that point, we've talked about what is the nature of this show. We originally, I think, were in the headspace that this was an anthology, just kind of a cool, just completely supplementary and not necessarily hyper important. Based on comments recently, it sounds like quite the opposite is true, and that
Sure.
not only is this
We shouldn't
canon,
take
which
it
we
lightly.
knew that already, and that all these possibilities will be different planes of existence, but I believe that versions of the characters we see in this show will then reappear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah,
I
plausible.
can totally see that happening.
Totally plausible.
I
And
was sitting on a plane
hopefully-
yesterday and I was like, oh my God, what a surprise to pull, having like Gamora, Thanos,
Zombie Cap.
having
Yeah, Zombie Cap,
Spider Doctor Strange.
Spider-Man. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, how fucking funny.
Yeah, there were a couple
Ultron
of,
chasing down the Infinity
yeah, I was
Stones.
gonna say Ultron was there. We're talking about a poster that they released. That's
It's
we're talking
canon.
about.
And they
But
also,
yeah, I mean, now
it sounds
with the multiverse being blown wide open, what's to say that this could not have, these characters could not show up? We've seen Peggy Carter.
and there was an interesting note about Peggy Carter, who in this continuity will be Captain Britain, a female version of Captain Britain. Her what if being if she took the super soldier serum, but there was a comment on her character that she would be showing up in a season 2. So I don't think this is going to be a one-off,
really?
which is interesting.
That's fun. I mean, the What If comics have been going strong for 50, 60 years. So there's
Right.
a lot of fun stuff
And-
to pull
So
from.
that's interesting because I'm curious whether or not that means that it'll be like part anthology, but then part not. Like if in the season 1 we'll see like each episode being its own, I don't know what you want to call it, universe maybe. And then the second season will be a continuation of those universes, or will be completely separate.
Possibly, and this is what gives me the feeling that this is going to influence how the movies go, at least in some small way. I'm thinking about Eric Killmonger is going to be the King of Wakanda.
Right?
We are without Chadwick Boseman.
Uh-huh.
What?
I already said this before. That like.
Oh
the-
yeah,
the-
these What
the-
If characters could totally show up now.
in Wakanda. I mean, and I'm not saying that it would be in Wakanda forever. Potentially, I mean that might be its own thing. But like I think it's very feasible that we'll see variants in the movies coming up.
I just hadn't put 2 and 2 together with this show being the catalyst for that.
Right.
That's exciting.
So they've basically said here that the MCU will end whenever we want it to end because there isn't technically an end.
Of course.
Right. Yeah, and
Well,
how
there
how in
isn't-
the
I mean,
world
there
would you
isn't.
end it?
They can't. They can't, and they're gonna keep making. They're gonna keep making stuff because they.
I mean,
they want them. They want the money, and people enjoy the films and TV shows. So
I have a follow-up question. So, if the MCU ended at Endgame, and they were just like, Kevin Feige just like dusted off his hands, said, "I did it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The MCU is up to you now, everybody." Or, the MCU is done, and we're now restarting everything. Like, would you be pleased, or would you be okay with that ending?
You mean if there were no?
It would have been bittersweet for me.
Sure.
Yeah, because we got such amazing things.
What an incredible ending it was.
Sure. I just now that I have fully invested myself in the comic world, there's just so many cool things that can be made into TV shows and movies, and
they barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, I mean, there's so we got to see a little bit of this kind of with Black Widow, with Taskmaster showing up. That's a character that's been
Oh, bitch. So, okay, let's just very, very quick, because I know you have to go pretty soon. But the tea about Black Widow. Do we think, knowing what we know about the Black Widow, is Scarlett Johannson done?
Is she done?
Sorry. So
done.
the tea is that Scarlett Johannson is now currently suing Disney for releasing Black Widow on Disney Premiere alongside the movie theaters, because she feels like she's been cheated out of $50 million. But she got $20 million, so she's upset that she didn't get her last 30, I guess, or maybe it's 50 in addition to the 20. I'm not sure, but I mean, that is a lot of fucking money, so I get that, but yeah, so Disney came back and was just like, "I can't believe that you would do this in the middle of a pandemic. How dare you?" And then Kevin Feige came in and was just like, "Disney, whoa, watch it. This is our girl Scarlett, and she deserves better, you bitch." And so, everybody's angry at each other, and it makes me nervous because legal things always fuck up everything. So I'm curious if you think that this is going to affect the MCU in any shape or form, at least I assume her character going forward might have some changes. I mean, I know that she wasn't necessarily planning to.
She's
her character's
gone.
done.
Well, yes, but I guess the option for her to be a variant in some shape or form is probably out the window.
I mean, in my mind, I said goodbye to her. With the
same.
I said goodbye to her with the Black Widow movie. Nothing against her at all. It's just I said goodbye to her, and Florence Pugh, I think eventually will take on the title of Black Widow.
You're probably right.
So for me, the Black Widow, the new Black Widow will be Florence Pugh.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, and also I assume that she probably sensed that as well, because I mean, I don't really know her, but I don't know if she would have had as much courage to do what she's done now if she knew that there were several contracts down the line waiting for her.
I do think it's interesting, though, that Kevin Feige, who is largely considered a company man and not a confrontational person, the fact he felt he needed to weigh in on this and then revealed that he aired his displeasure with Disney several times about how this was going down. I mean, that makes, not that I didn't believe Scarlett Johansson on her own terms.
Of course.
I did. What she said made sense, and it was
totally
at the least interesting legal discussion. But the fact that the head of the Marvel
it has
Studios
large implications for every actor, really.
Right.
Sure, going forward, because they're Disney's going to do the double release. Yeah, the Jungle Cruise is dealing with that right now. Suicide Squad on HBO Max. It's a new territory in the same way streaming contracts were a new territory. 10, 15 years ago, people were like, "Wait, I don't make residual money. What the hell?"
Yeah, WTF.
Well, and just the fact that he deemed it necessary to step in tells me that there was some missteps on Disney's part.
I don't doubt
Yeah.
that. I don't doubt that at all.
The response. I mean, for all you out there that haven't read into it, you should read their response because it is scathing. It was like, it really, really surprised me. I was like,
yeah,
dang,
that's not like them.
No, they
Normally,
came
yeah.
out with like blood on their teeth. It was like, yikes.
Well, and Feige, you have to think from his perspective. He's like, my job is to make sure top of the line talent is here and available to me at all times, and I can't
Right.
have the parent company abusing my relationships with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And as actors, all three of us put ourselves in Scarlett Johannson. I mean, forget we're talking about tens of millions of dollars for a second,
am
but
I
just talk
can't
about
even. I can't even fathom. So it's fine.
but just put ourselves in that position of getting what you're owed in terms of the work you've put in.
Right.
And she's been here since the very beginning.
Yeah, literally the beginning,
she's
right?
clearly under the understanding that there was at the very least, going to be a delay between the theatrical release and the Disney Plus release.
Right.
Um,
And then there was
so if
And
that
she-
was
and
abused,
she
it was
finally
abused,
got
and it
her
has to be
solo
rectified.
film. She finally got her solo film.
Right. No, I mean, I think we have a tendency to look at these people and go, "Oh, tens of millions of dollars. I mean, get over yourself." But it's not like she just
Right.
kind of shows up to
I
works
know.
and phones it in. She's put in 11 years of her career, and I'm like, give her her money. If she's owed
Well,
$50
she's a
million,
producer now
give her
too,
$50
so
million.
she's going to be
Yeah.
she's now going to be taking her own money and putting it into productions, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
And
productions
from-
are expensive.
For my thing, like in the scheme of things, like $50 million to Disney is
A drop
It's
in the
nothing.
bucket.
so. Yeah, I'm not surprised that they responded that way, but it's a bummer.
Yeah, it was rude.
And I just
was
hope it.
rude.
I hope it doesn't dissuade other actors from joining on in the future. I mean,
Sure.
there's no sign that is going to be the case because we've seen a lot of cool casting recently. But they need to tread carefully here
Yeah.
about nickeling and diming their A-list
Yeah.
Academy Award level talent.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
slippery
because she
slope.
made you buckets and buckets and buckets of money. So,
Yeah, so if anything, I
Right.
hope that she's at least, I mean, it's not biting the hand that feeds you, but it kind of is. But also, it's like just making sure that everybody's getting their fair share. So I do appreciate at least her bringing that.
Well,
to
and
everybody's attention.
it is important to note that for whatever reason, Black Widow has suffered at the box office in a way that
I thought it did so well
with
in
the
the first
simultaneous release on, but along with the its release on Disney Plus. But you then had Jungle Cruise, which is outperforming where Black Widow was.
Oh, is that
and
right?
They too have a simultaneous release. But you just think about it. I would imagine I haven't seen Scarlett Johansson's contract, but if I'm thinking about Robert Downey Jr., where he had negotiated percentage points of box office receipts, and that's where he
Right.
makes a shit ton of his money.
Right.
So if Disney Plus is eating into that's the crux of this. If Disney Plus is eating into the box office receipts, she's directly feeling that.
Oh,
So
Yeah,
100%.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Disney's response made it sound like she was supposed to get some sort of portion of the Disney premiere as well.
Mm.
But maybe it's a smaller portion, which I don't think that that doesn't make any sense
Must
to me,
be.
but I mean, I the only reason why I would be that she would be pissed if it was smaller, and assumedly it is. So, yeah, but very interesting. I did not. That came out of left field. I did not expect that drama to be out there in the universe now. But I guess we'll all keep you updated.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, we have some fun stuff coming up. We have got Bad Batch next week, and
Yes.
What
The
if?
penultimate episode.
yes, on the horizon. And
I just like to say that
three,
word.
The three of us are going to the Dodgers versus Astros game
Yes.
this week, so that's
Oh, woo,
fun.
woo.
Let's friggin' go.
We're not doing a
And-
podcast about it though.
Dino is going to get booed a lot, but it will be okay.
Oh, I'm gonna be physically assaulted.
And I'm not going to know what's going on.
We'll protect you. Don't worry. Yeah, this is Inside
I'm
the
gonna use Daniel as a
Tauntaun.
human shield, actually.
That's a good
That's
idea.
fine. I can take it.
It was him. He said it.
Who, me?
The guy in the Dodgers hat? That's weird.
He's a turncoat.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And we hope that you are having fun like we are.
Yeah.
This is Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom.
You said that already. I'm sorry.
I didn't, because we kept talking about
I'm
baseball,
sorry.
so
Just
I
kidding.
only said half of it. I'm Alyssa Simmons.
I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino Nicandros.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast. Please like and subscribe.